for people who are listening who are up against a wall, there's opportunity there. You may feel like, oh, it would be so much easier to grow my business or live my best life if I didn't have insert relationship problem, health problem, job problem, whatever it happens to be. But there's tools and there's grace in there to actually use. And it's a gift because it's not going to be there forever. You are going to get out of your crisis, and that fire may go out.
With another edition of the most audacious podcast the internet has to offer. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and as always, it's a complete pleasure to be here as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. You've got it locked to episode 211 of the podcast, and we'll be engaging in a discussion around staying creative when times are tough. There's no question that it's one of the most difficult things to do, but at the same time, it's also one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves as well. You see, in addition to being a great emotional outlet, staying creative is great for problem solving and encourages us to think outside of the box and explore alternative solutions when faced with obstacles or adversity. Being able to approach problems from different angles can lead to innovative and effective solutions, and today's guest understands this all too well. You see, Julie Chenell, who's widely known as a digital marketing expert right now, but prior to that, she was in search of a solution to get her out of her struggles, and she found one in digital sales funnels, and she hasn't looked back since. Now, if you're wondering what digital sales funnels are, believe me, you will learn all about them right here from Julie. She'll give us a 411 and fill us in on her journey, her pathway to get her where she is, and how she's helping other entrepreneurs scale up. It's a great conversation I'm certain you'll all enjoy. So without any further ado, here's my chat with Julie Chenell. Enjoy. Hey, Julie, thank you for joining me today here on the Audacious Living Podcast. It is such a pleasure. And thank you for making the time like this.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's great to share stories and insights, and again, something I absolutely love doing. And we spend so much time on this podcast, encouraging people of different ways that they can live their best audacious lives and things that they can do for themselves. And I think for me, the part that's always most inspiring is that each person's story is unique. Each person's journey is their own, but we all can find something from that. And so that's the part that charges me and gets me excited, and why I do love the sharing aspect of this journey. And so maybe that's a sort of a good segue into the work that you do, because you work with entrepreneurs, helping them to scale up their businesses and go, get to that better place, if you will. But you yourself had your own little origin story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I fell into entrepreneurship like most of us by accident. I grew up pretty much in a Christian conservative home. I had babies young. I was a stay-at-home mom. And, I had 3 children, 3 and under, and I was looking for an outlet because I was losing my mind, as I'm sure many stay-at-home parents can understand.
Got it.
So I took to the internet to blog, and that's where I started to develop my writing voice. I gathered a following, and then once my kids were old enough and they went in school, I thought, well, now what do I do? And so I was really good at the tech of blogging, which was on WordPress. And so I started to develop a little web design business, a blog design business, and everything was going well. I was making enough money to go on vacation or have date night. I was not really trying that hard. And like most people, your audacious life is usually right on the backside of some significant crisis or hard times or something like that. And so in 2014, I ended up getting divorced. I also got pregnant right in the same period. And all of a sudden I was like, well, crap, I have to make enough money to live. And so this set me on a journey to learn more about marketing. I got really good at it, helped lots of other people build sales funnels. And then I decided to do it for myself. And this is what sort of catapulted me into, success, as people would like to say. And so now I teach people how to take their expertise, take their passion, and market it in a way that gets them that financial freedom that they want.
The part I love about your story, I mean, thank you for sharing first off, and I love the entire story. But the piece that I zero on is something that we again oftentimes sort of talk about the greatness being on the other side of adversity, right? And so I've got this image of we're on this pathway, and there's this boulder, smack dap in the middle, blocking us, and it's our job to find a way to go up, over, around, through, underneath, whatever, because on the other side of that is where our greatness lies. It's just hard to see because that boulder is blocking the way. We can't totally see it, right?
And we don't want to do it. We don't like it, but it's just like anything. You see it in nature, pressure creates diamonds and sand creates pearls, and like it's all the good things that are on the backside of those hard times. And I get a lot of people now, they come to me, they either come and they have money to build their business, or they have someone else kind of taking care of their needs. And they're like, well, how do I find grit? And I was like, well, you are a little cushy right now. And so for people who are listening, who are up against a wall, there's opportunity there. You may feel like, oh, it would be so much easier to grow my business or live my best life if I didn't have insert relationship problem, health problem, job problem, whatever it happens to be. But there's tools and there's grace in there to actually use. And it's a gift because it's not going to be there forever. You are going to get out of your crisis, and that fire may go out. And so this is the time to use it.
Yes. I guess it's one of those things while you're in the midst of it, it's just very, very difficult to see. It's very hard to see that light at the end of the tunnel. You're thinking, what light? There's it's all darkness, if you will. Were there any particular things that sort of kept you going? I mean, obviously when you've got, young children, I would imagine that's a big part of it. Were there any other things that really said, like, I got to move forward still?
I kept a lot of goals in front of me, right? So, obviously getting to a position financially where my kids could live with me full time was important. And that was my number one goal. And so it was very much driven by, I need a house in a good school district. And that was sort of my first vision. Once I got that, it's not enough just to make money. You need a vision and a mission that was bigger. And so there were two missions. One was like a financial one. Like I was like, all right, I want enough money to put my kids through college. But the other one was, I have something that a lot of other men and women need. And so it became mission based on like, how many people can I help give permission for them to be able to do what they're called to do? And so, and that is what kept me going in the face of lots of hardship and tough times and obstacles.
It's funny because I actually was going to ask you about when the giving back became a part of your business model, right? Like, when it's one thing to, I'm going through my stuff and I've made it on the other side, but to immediately say, okay, let me reach back. It helps others. I know people hear that in my situation. And is that, so was that something always in the back of your mind to do that? Is this where you saw yourself, or was developed through that process?
I mean, I think I always had that feeling. Part of how I accidentally fell into this was I was writing on my blog. I had an audience, and then I had someone say to me, how did you get WordPress to make the header like that? And I was like, oh, I'll show you, and then I just helped her. And then she was like, oh, this is amazing. And then next thing I know, I have a Facebook group and there's 20 people in it and they're all asking for my help. And so I've always been very sort of transparent and generous with my information and happy to help. It grew over time. And I think, when you're in crisis, it's hard to like think about other people's needs. It's like put your own oxygen mask on first.
Right.
But as long as you are committed to a problem and the person who has that problem, money usually follows. I think where people go off the path is when they are like, oh, here's a cool idea. Here's something I want to do. And I'm like, well, have you actually gone to that audience and actually sat and talked with them and understand what their problems are? Because if you build things that directly solve problems, value is going to follow.
Right. And I think you're right. It's not always about the money as much as we might think it is. Sometimes there's more, well, not sometimes, all the time. There's much more greater than that, because again, you can reach that dollar amount that you're after, and then what? Like, what's next?
Right.
And we talk about the goals and what are you after, and so it's really important to have something much bigger than just money. And I love the fact that you've done that, and then giving back too. I really do. That piece really does resonate with Julie. I have to say that giving back piece really does.
Yeah. No.
So the being in the marketing space is that was intentional for you, or is that something because you're probably falling into it? Was that so you fell into that as well, or was that intentional where you're going to be in marketing?
I never like woke up one day and said, "Oh, I'm going to be a marketer." It's funny though, if I look back, I went to college for clinical psychology. So I was always fascinated with human behavior. And really marketing is all about human behavior and about, sales and buyer psychology and all of that. So it's no surprise that I ended up there, but it wasn't necessarily conscious. I think my original sort of way that I discovered it is I was charging, maybe $1,000 or $2,000 to build somebody's WordPress site. And I stumbled upon a webinar about sales funnels and realized that people were paying a lot more money for sales funnels, even though it's just a type of website. It's just with the pages stacked like this instead of more like a brochure. And so I was like, well, if I'm really good at web design, well, I'm probably good at funnel design too. There's just some things I need to learn. And so I did that, and I went down the rabbit hole of learning, and then I started to build them for other people. And I'll never forget the first sort of $1 million story. There was a woman and she was teaching, get this, proofreading for transcript court reporters. And it was like the most niche thing ever. And she had
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, I know. It was like super niche. Like anyone listening being like, "Oh, my product's too niche." No.
There's no such thing as too niche.
And so she had this blog and she had this course and she wanted a funnel for it. And I built this funnel, and, she ended up doing $1 million in a few months on this course. And that was the moment where I was like, wow, all right, sales funnels, these things are really powerful because it's taking buyer psychology and sales psychology and working it into design and copy. So I can use all the sales psychology I want in person on a phone call. But if I just send you a link and now you're left to your own devices, I need to make sure that those pages are really designed. And so I was like, well, maybe I should build a sales funnel for myself, since they were doing so well. And I did. And I made, my first $1 million in a sales funnel in about 2017. And I remember thinking, okay, this is the skill. Like, this is the skill. It doesn't matter what business, what market, what niche you're in, whether your business falls to the ground or not. If you understand this skill, whether you're using it for other people or using it for yourself, you will be okay financially. And that was really where I became committed to this work.
When did you start feeling good about what you were doing?
That's funny because I think that it's the nature of a high achiever to never feel good about what they're doing. You're always moving the goalpost, and you think, oh, once I hit this successful number, then I'm going to feel like I've arrived. But by the time you get there, you've become the person that can handle that amount of success and money and what have you. And so now the goalpost has moved again. I've tried to enjoy the journey, and I try to remind myself that the better I get at something, at some skill, the less I'm going to realize it because I'm going to take the information for granted. And the best way to remind yourself how far you've come is to go very back to the beginning and teach someone who knows nothing. And then you're like, oh, wait, okay, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. No, I like that a lot because you're able to really see what that journey looks like for you and how and again how far you've come, like you said. I think of that concept like teaching people to fish, right? And when you can teach them to fish, they can support themselves, and that's exactly what you're doing. Julie, if you could tell me, when the people, when these entrepreneurs that come to you, sort of what state are they in terms of their level of understanding of the what you can offer them? Where are they at? I'm curious.
Yeah, I mean, I really work with people all along from zero, like I don't have a Facebook account, which is hard to find these days, all the way to people who are already making $1 million or $2 million a year and want to scale. And so obviously, the people up there, I work with in my private mastermind, Digital Insiders, and I work one-on-one with those people, helping them scale. But when you're at the beginning, my company Funnel Gorgeous, which I've co-founded with my partner, Kathy Olson, was founded in 2018. And that has free, low cost, and a little bit more expensive, tons and tons of resources, templates, tools, software, education on helping people grow a profitable online business. And so if you don't know anything about online business, you can start over at Funnel Gorgeous and start to make waves.
And as you call them, hacking strategies, right? Growth hacking strategies.
Yeah. I mean, hacking has got a good and a bad reputation. I think I always tell people, if they are brand new to the space, and you are coming to the internet marketing world with an expertise. So that's key, right? You're coming with the leadership expertise, or I have a relationship therapy degree, or whatever you have. You've come to the market with an expertise. You can be making 6 figures and a solid living pretty consistently within 18 months. And I know that's not as sexy as 30 days, but that's what I have found,
No, but you'll still get people's attention, I think. I mean, that's still quite a substantial amount of money for that period of time. Considering,
you could make at least $2,000 or $3,000 a month within a couple months. But I'm saying, you want to make $10,000 a month regularly and dependably, it's probably going to take you about 1.5 years.
Right. Which I'm okay with that. I don't mind.
Yeah. That's not slow.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And I do, like the fact that, you're seeing a cross section of individuals in terms of their knowledge base or understanding of the digital marketing space, which and I certainly I wanted to ask about, because it's ever evolving and ever changing. There's always new. How do you stay up with the trends and stay on, cutting edge, so to speak?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, the world is changing fast, even faster now. AI is like bust onto the scene, and like I can't keep up with it as much as I try. I think I remind myself that humans are going to human, and those principles of human behavior don't really change. The tactics may change, but the foundational, needs for humans, what they're attracted to, what they care about, doesn't really change. And so if you focus on developing the skills specifically in 3 areas. So we certify people in offer creation, which is understanding how to craft an offer that's irresistible, so that people buy. Copywriting, which is the way to communicate with your words. And yes, AI is very helpful, but if you don't understand the psychology, you're still going to limp. And then the third is design. And design gets a bad rap because I think people think design is decorating, like making things pretty. But design, conversion design, which is what we really focus on, is about creating a visual experience that makes it easier for someone to stay on the page and understand what you're saying. And so if I'm here talking to you right now, I'm making eye contact, I'm using my hands, I'm taking a breath, I'm using all these nonverbal cues to communicate some sort of tonality to you. If someone is reading a document on a page, design is doing all the nonverbal, right? So for example, if you have something important you want to say, you're going to pause, right? Well, what is a pause in design? A pause is white space, right? And so we teach design principles. If you put something on a page and you create white space, and then you put a one sentence with a period and you raise the font, you are communicating this is an important line. And so we teach you how to visually create pages that are going to be read and understood, because nobody's going to buy if they don't read and comprehend. And so if you can understand offer creation, copywriting, and design, it doesn't matter if a new tool comes out on the market, because those 3 things fundamentally really don't change.
Right. So it's almost understanding the language, for lack of a better term, maybe? Is that
it's like the elements, it's like my kid, my
Mm,
son is like totally obsessed with the periodic table of elements. He's 7. It's like the elements that make up something. If you can
yes.
understand the ingredients, then you can make any recipe you want.
Right. So AI or not, it doesn't matter because those elements, as you said, have to exist. And it's interesting you mentioned AI because it is rapidly taking up space in the marketplace, if you will, and more and more. In fact, I was literally just reading an article a couple of days ago, and it was podcasters. I'm a podcaster, so I was reading it, and it was talking about all the things that it can do for me. It can write my social media posts, it can write my blog posts, it can create my show notes, it can write my press release to promote my guests, it can do all these sorts of things. And I remember going, so what do I do? Right? What's that for me, right?
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know. Well, this AI is a double-edged sword. I think it's going to do a lot of crazy things. It's going to upend a lot of industries. But like you said, humans crave connection, and AI is not human. And so I think as long as we continue to foster our emotional connections, yeah, we may change what we do on a day-to-day basis. There may be, no need for certain tasks, that we used to have to do. The more we focus on emotional connection, that's going to become a really high value item here in the future.
yeah, the connection pieces. I mean, and we all know people, like to do business with people they know, like love, trust, respect, right? Like that's who they want to work with, and so the connection aspect is always there. What kind of challenge exists in the marketing space when trying to build those connections?
Okay, well,
I know it's a
so
big question. Sorry, I know it's just
yeah, no, I mean, challenges in building connections. I think number one, like any human system, there's hierarchy.
gotcha.
And it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So if you go into a new community and you're trying to make waves or get attention, number one, you need to dig your well, which means you need to give before you ask. And sometimes you need to give for quite a long time before you ask.
Right.
The second thing is that everybody likes to go for the top dog.
Okay.
Right. So like if I have an offer and I want to get affiliates and I want to get some big name affiliate, I think people make a critical error there because a lot of those bigger names, while they have huge audiences, they're a bunch of steps removed, and their bigger audiences tend to not always be as engaged. Case in point, when Russell Brunson launched his book Expert Secrets in 2017, he did an affiliate contest.
Okay.
And he got big names: Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone, Amy Porterfield. And then there was all the little guys, right? The little guys are scrappy, and the little guys want it sometimes more than the big guys. And so I remember promoting this book, and I gave away some huge bonus. And the first day that the affiliate roster came out of the top 10, my name was on it, and nobody knew who I was.
Nice.
And so this was sort of how I got the attention of someone like Russell Brunson, is because he realized that those micro influencers actually have more impact than you might realize. Right. And so when you're building relationships, treat everyone as if they're the most important person in the room. Because oftentimes the people, even the little guys or even the service providers of the bigger guys, have a lot of value to share. And then, you got to play the game. Sometimes you got to pay to be in the room. You got to pay for proximity. Sure. Yep. You got to prove your worth, but it is what it is.
The point around those micro influencers that would surprise a lot of people in terms of the scope and how much people they can actually reach and connect with, because it's always been big, right? Go big and get the biggest names and get the those are the ones that will make the biggest difference and biggest impact. But that's as you in that illustration, that's not always the case. And I think there's a little bit of a hunger there, that drive, right? There's a little hunger to get it done, and and there's different motivators too. Like in your case, young kids juggling life and all that comes with it, so that could be seen as a motivator. But regardless of that, it's still to watch, to know that that exists, that these small guys can do just as much as the big ones. It'll shock people, right?
Yeah, I mean, I actually, in that contest, it was funny. That's kind of how that was like my breakout moment. I actually ended up placing fourth. I was the only woman in the contest, and
Amazing.
Tony Robbins was fifth. And so
Wow.
it was like, obviously he didn't try as hard as I did, and I like basically split a vein to get it.
Sure.
But I proved
Yes.
that the micro influencer has sometimes more power than the big name.
Absolutely.
When used correctly.
Absolutely. I love it. That's a great story. Absolutely a great story. Whenever we see Tony, should remind him, I beat you, by the way.
I know when I meet him, I'll be like, I beat you.
That's right. You're at the time your kids were quite young when you started on this venture. What was that like? I mean, managing young kids and having to still juggle life.
Yeah, it was not something I ever want to repeat. When I got divorced, my children were 6 or 7, 9, and 11. So they weren't super, super young.
Okay.
But they actually stayed with their dad during the week because we got divorced. It was very amicable. And I said, I need time to get on my feet because I had been a stay-at-home mom. So he kept them during the week and I kept them on the weekends.
Okay.
And that was brutal and traumatic because I was the stay-at-home mom, and
Sure.
all of a sudden I'm thrust into this. And I was also pregnant at the time with a 4th child. And so that hustle was really what I think propelled me quickly. But I will never forget answering emails in the hospital on the day I delivered my 4th, and the one-handed breastfeeding, emailing with the other hand, toggle. It's a lot. And I have a lot of compassion and empathy for mothers who are trying to juggle both. And I don't think there's any easy way to do it. I just remind people it's a season and it will pass and it's not forever.
And I was going to ask, well, what advice would you give to people in that situation that unfortunately have to juggle? They don't have the luxury, don't have the choice. And so the idea of it being a season, one of my mother's favorite expressions is "this too shall pass." And so, it is for the moment, but it's not a life sentence.
It doesn't feel like it in the moment,
No, damn it. Painful things never do. And I get it, right? It's hard.
Yeah. Well, one little like tactical piece of advice, if you don't mind, I can give to busy parents. So when my kids were little, they were like all like, 3, 2, 1, so it was crazy. And there was 1 hour a day in which they all slept. Otherwise it was just like one was up and down, all this kind of stuff. So I remember putting them all to bed in their naps, and I would stand on the like landing of my staircase, and I would panic because it'd be like, I have 60 minutes. What do I do with my 60 minutes, And I would like pull out I'd pull out my notebook and I'd be like, okay, dishes, laundry, clean up the toys, work on my journal, And what I would do is I would erase everything that I could somehow figure out how to do with the kids awake. I was like, dishes, I can do it awake. Laundry, I could do it awake. Take a shower. I can do it with them awake, and I would like whittle it down until there was really only 1 or 2 things that I really couldn't do when they were awake.
Yes.
And those became the tasks. And so when I started business and my kids grew up, I took that same idea and I created something called sacred time.
Okay.
And my argument is if you can find 2 hours of sacred time in your day, you can run a business. But it means that you have to, sometimes people's sacred time is like 5 to 7 a.m. And instead of making your milkshake or your smoothie and running on your Peloton, which you can do with kids awake, you can do all that shit with kids awake. But what you can't do is go, create your podcast or you can't do that with kids awake. And so I would say to moms, rearrange your schedule. Enough with the morning routine baloney. Use that as your sacred time. And then once they're awake, go ahead, make the smoothie, run in the Peloton, make them sit next to you. And so it's a shift because you have to find that time and then you have to guard it with violence. And I'm not even joking because people will try to steal it, especially if they are small.
Yes.
And this, if you can do this, will fundamentally change your productivity level, but you've got to be militant about it or people will take it.
Mm. I love the deliberateness in this. Is deliberateness a word even? I don't know. It is now.
Well,
And it can work. But I do like the fact that it's very intentional and deliberate. Like this is the time. And as you said, guard it with your life and no one take it away from you. Because once you've lost that, then you've got very little left. Yeah, really.
yeah. I mean, to this day, I have about 2 hours. I still to this day have 2 hours of sacred time a day. And
Nice.
I get the majority of my hard brain power content done in those 2 hours. There's no meetings allowed. There's no administrative work. There's no social media. It is my time to produce things that are going to make me money.
Right. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Again, I love it. The intentional approach, and this is where this is what I'm going to do in this time period, which is fantastic. I want to actually jump back to the entrepreneurs that you work with, and you said you're a cross section that that'll come to you. Some at the very end of the bottom of the scale, if you will, in terms of knowledge and skills and understanding of marketing principles, and then others at the other end. The process of determining, because we know there's lots of tools out there that you can use, right? There's lots, but it's not going to be all things for everyone. The process in figuring out what makes sense for what you do, what does that look like?
Yeah, I love this topic. I mean, obviously, it's no secret I run software, so I have strong opinions about this. But I think a lot of people get hung up on tech.
Okay.
They have the idea, they have the passion, they maybe they start a podcast, or maybe they start a YouTube channel or TikTok or whatever, and then it comes time to like selling stuff, and then they panic, and the tech becomes a big barrier. So there are 5 things that every online business owner needs. My argument is pick your forever home at the beginning, because moving is not fun to do later. And
like physical home, like physical home.
No, like I mean your digital home.
Oh, okay,
like
okay,
digital,
gotcha.
like your digital home. Yeah.
Right.
Pick your forever digital home at the beginning, and make sure that these 5 things can talk to each other. So here they are in quick succession. Number 1, you need a customer relationship manager. Okay. This is something that holds the most valuable thing you have in your business, and that is your customers' data, their name, their email, who they are, all that stuff. So that's the first thing. Second thing is you need a calendar and scheduler. So you need a way to have meetings, to get people to talk. So a calendar and scheduler is needed. Number 3, you need a website and a funnel builder. You need both. You need the ability to create web pages quickly, easily with templates if you're not a good designer. Number 4, you need some sort of membership or course portal, whether you're using that for your internal team, for your coaching clients, for your course, for your students, memberships, whatever, you need that. And number 5, you need messaging capabilities, ideally text, email, and phone. These are still the 3 primary ways that we message. And so the secret is if you get all 5 of those things to talk to each other through what we call automation. Then what I can do is I can have someone book a call on my calendar. It can go to my Google Calendar. It can send reminders. And then when I am on the phone, I can put a tag on the customer in the customer data, which could then trigger access to, a particular course or a particular product. And so when you get all of those things talking to each other, you really unlock a lot of possibility where you can run a pretty high revenue business with a very, very small team. So that is what I recommend that all online business owners do. And we facilitate that through our software, FG Funnels.
Right. And that's, I think the more you can automate things, it makes it makes things to run, because you're not having to think about every step of the way, because humans being humans, we're going to drop the ball somewhere along the lines, aren't we?
Absolutely. And, automation, it gets kind of a bad rap. People think, oh, I'm automating things and then I'm more disconnected from my customer. But the actual opposite is true. Automation frees you from the tasks that are really not necessary for you to be doing, so that you have more time to connect on the things that are important. So if I had to do all the automated tasks in my mastermind that my software is doing, I would have less time to coach and to show up. And so automation actually creates more space for connection, not less.
I like that. Say that again, Julie. I love it.
Automation actually creates more time and space for connection, not less.
Yeah. It really does. I can see that because it gives you, it provides opportunities, and so I think
Yes.
it is what we're really talking about here. And I got to tell you, like, I was not a sales funnel expert at all. Like, I mean, it was the first I really heard of them until it's one of those terms you heard of, and as you're talking more, it makes sense. How much did you know about sales funnels before you became an expert in it?
I mean, I would say that, I came to the sales funnel world with some key skills
Mm-hmm.
because of my web design business. So I had tech skills, and I had copywriting skills, and I had some basic design skills. And so that gave me a leg up. All I really needed to do was learn the strategy, and I needed to learn a tool. And I had those pieces. I would say, though, we do teach people how to do sales funnels from the ground up.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to say it probably takes someone about 3 to 6 months to become a funnel builder.
Okay.
And then another 6 to 12 months if you're actively building funnels for other people, where you can start to feel like, wow, I really got this. But we've taught people that know nothing about sales funnels how to build a funnel in 60 minutes. It's not a good funnel, but it's a funnel and it's working. So we do teach that. That's if you are at all interested in funnel building, Funnel Gorgeous is probably the best on the market in terms of educating, especially people who are maybe a little bit nervous around tech.
Nice. And again, it's you're teaching people how to fish, Julie. You totally are.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Gotta say, no, I love the concept. I certainly love your story, and that we talk about getting through that adversity at the very beginning and finding ways to make it work. And I think the most important thing in all this is, and as much as people hear your story is your story, and their story is their own. And so, but there's still aspects that we can take from one another, and at the very least, it's understanding that you got to keep pushing. You got to keep moving forward, because again, that greatness is on the other side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For that individual, because again, the one thing that we encourage and impress on individuals is making that first step. Right. You may not be able to see, there's a quote about not being able to see the full staircase, but you still have to make that first step anyways. And that's kind of where the audaciousness comes in, because it allows us to step into the person that we're supposed to be. So that person that's out there, that entrepreneur that's out there listening, that's taking in the conversation and is kind of on that fence there and not sure, how they should go, or what would you say to that individual?
That first step, right? That first step.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, if the first step is you're trying to get into business, I would do what I said before, which is go find a problem you're happy to solve and attach yourself to that person and that audience. If you already have that and you're trying to take the first step into monetizing it, I would come hang out with Funnel Gorgeous, and I would probably start with one of our most popular. It's not very expensive. It's $37. It's called Offer Cure. And it's sort of the building blocks of how to build an offer. It's $37. You go to offercure.com. We have, I think, maybe 17,000 people who've taken that course. And it gives you it's like, remember how I said it's offer, copy, design?
Yep.
This is the first step: how to create an offer, how to write about it, and how to design a mock-up around it. And a lot of people have used that course as the stepping stone into selling their first product.
Gotcha. That sounds like a great leap. Stepping stone absolutely is, and I think because life you can always build on it, right? And so you did this. Absolutely. You can always build up. So, but you do need a starting point, and that sounds like a great one. Julie, this has just been a phenomenal conversation. I really do appreciate this and the enlightenment as well. Again, very much. I very, very appreciate hearing individual stories and how an individual gets from point A to point B and what that looks like, and there may be challenges along the way. So I do appreciate the transparency and sharing. For our listeners that want to learn more about you, or perhaps learn more about Funnel Gorgeous, where can we send them?
Yeah. So just simply go to funnelgorgeous.com and you can hop into, we have a free challenge called Offer to Impact right on the homepage. And that's for people who don't even really know what they could do a business on. And for those of you who are like, you already have that idea, offercure.com is a great place to get started.
Awesome. Awesome. Julie, thank you for doing this. Like I said, it was great. And I appreciate you taking the time and congratulations on the work you're doing, not only for the success you're building for yourself, but how you're helping other people. So again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Take care.